So an electric vehicle is coming to kill you anytime soon. That is basically Trump's message.
Tesla is heading to trial in California today to defend a high-stakes lawsuit claiming that its autopilot system caused a crash that killed its driver.
I think if your goal is 1 to 2 months, I don't know about Tesla, but I think if your goal is over the next 3 to 5 years, Tesla is as good of an investment as ever, and it's just a high-valued stock.
We're seeing massive research inside of EV vehicles. Now, Tesla continues to be the leader by far, as you just so evidenced.
All that and more, so let's get to it. Tesla stock is riding high in the pre-market, sitting at $249.90 at the moment. For the last trading day in September, are we poised for a breakout? For the week, Tesla is still down about 2%. Year to date, Tesla is sitting around 111% gains, but going back a whole calendar year, Tesla is still down 11.5%.
In lieu of attending last night's debate, Donald Trump visited a non-union factory in Michigan where he slammed Biden's electric vehicle mandate. Take a listen.
Biden's cruel and ridiculous electrical. Think of this. He wants electric vehicle mandates that will spell the death of the U.S. auto industry. It doesn't matter. I watch it. You're negotiating a contract. You're all on picket lines and everything. But it doesn't make a damn bit of difference what you get, because in 2 years, you're all going to be out of business. You're not getting anything. I will not allow, under any circumstances, the American automobile industry to die. I want it to thrive, and to thrive like never before.
And there you heard Trump speaking until he was orange in the face. Joining us now with what's on his radar, Yahoo Finance's Rick Newman. Hey, Rick.
Hey, guys. So an electric vehicle is coming to kill you anytime soon. That is basically Trump's message. I don't know what to say, but we have to pay attention to this, because when Donald Trump generates a new lie, he tends to say it over and over and over again. So I just want to go through a couple of things Trump is saying falsely about electric vehicles. Firstly, he says they're all going to be made in China. I guess what he's trying to get at is that a lot of the battery technology is based in China right now, and it's just cheaper in China. But the green energy laws that Biden signed last year have powerful tax incentives for manufacturers to put those factories in the United States, battery factories and electric vehicle assembly factories, all the components, and that's actually happening.
The main reason why Tesla decided to shift their battery production from the German facility to the Austin facility, simply to take advantage of these incentives. If you want to offset your costs when selling to U.S. consumers, you're going to need to build facilities here just to keep pace with the competition.
I mean, there's a boom in U.S. factory construction, and that is related to those tax incentives for green energy. So they're not all going to be made in China. They're also not mandated. I mean, there's nothing in any Biden policy that says anybody has to buy an electric vehicle. It so happens that Americans want to buy electric vehicles.
While that may be true, policies are being generated to discourage the production of internal combustion engines. These things already have razor-thin margins. Compound that with the inevitable shift to the battery electric vehicle, you'd have to be a moron to keep building these particular types of vehicles. If you have any foresight at all, as an automobile manufacturer, you will know that the juice would not be worth the squeeze for those individuals that would want to purchase your products in terms of internal combustion engines. Not unless you plan for the consumer to pay an incredible markup. It won't be sustainable.
They've gone from almost no market share to, I think it's now 9% of all electric vehicles sold. And that's just because people want to buy them and get the tax credit along with that. He's also saying union jobs are going to disappear in 2 years. In other words, you better elect Trump or all the union jobs are going to go away. I don't think so. And in that speech, he also said, we have unlimited gasoline in the United States, and we have had unlimited gasoline here for 500 years. 500 years, he said. And so I guess the original pioneers, they came to the United States in search of unlimited gasoline, and they found it. We don't really have unlimited gasoline. We're limited by the refining capacity we have. But that is Trump's speech, and I have a feeling he's going to repeat it, so get used to hearing it.
Like I always say, your truth is going to be somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. The key is to understand that your truth may not necessarily be everyone else's truth. Being able to see the subject matter from a different perspective is what we like to call empathy, folks. Above all else, compromise should be a derivative of empathy.
Has the transition to EVs been good for the U.S. economy under Biden? Has it been a good thing, net-net?
I think it all depends on whether you think we need to solve the problem of global warming. I mean, let's remember why this is all happening. The science is very clear. I mean, we keep hitting record after record, the warmest year on record. We know why. It's because of carbon emissions. And cars, automobiles, are a major source of carbon emissions. So the reason we're doing this is not just to have electric vehicles for the sake of electric vehicles. It's because electric vehicles have no pollution. So if you don't like electric vehicles as part of the solution, then what is your solution? That is the real question. And if you're just going to say we should ignore global warming, I think that is pretty retrograde at this point.
Many people like to argue the fact that battery electric vehicles are bad for the planet due to the mining that is necessary to extract the minerals. Small price to pay when you're looking at a long-term solution as to continuing down a path that is, quite frankly, not helping the situation. The infrastructure for a sustainable energy economy is going to be robust. And while global warming does play its part in the transition to battery electric vehicles, you can't ignore the fact that consumers are going to want to buy these computers on wheels. Outside of any green reason to transition to battery electric vehicles, the one thing that should stick out the most is that it's an economical inevitability.
But honestly, Trump has no policy at all on what to do about about global warming. So if you just want to say we should just, the smokestack should just belch the way they did in the 1970s, which is the Trump kind of view of the world, drill, 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 everything should run on petroleum, and we should ignore global warming, then why do you need electric vehicles? But look, we do need to address this problem, and I think so far this has been a reasonable solution. And by the way, what is always the number one top ticker at Yahoo Finance? Everybody knows it is Tesla, which is not a government agency. It is a rocket ship company that stock-wise that is making billions of dollars because they make electric vehicles that people want to buy. So there is a market for this, and I think it's foolish to ignore that.
Ding, 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 ding. Tell him what he's won, Johnny. There's gold in them there hills if you can build an electric vehicle that consumers want. Tesla seems to have this in spades. Problem is, Tesla makes this look easy.
Or Rick, you just burn coal like Vivek reiterated last night. Maybe get coal-powered cars.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, coal has made a bit of a comeback, believe it or not, because of everything that happened with displacement in the energy business last year with regard to the Russian invasion and natural gas shortages and stuff like that. But even in coal country, even in West Virginia, they know that coal's days are numbered. Guess what? Joe Manchin, the senator from West Virginia, coal country, he's a big fan of nuclear power because he thinks you can put nuclear power plants where the coal plants used to be, and that a lot of the workers can get the same job. So let's think about the future, everybody. I mean, if you want to live in the past, sure, go cheer at a Trump rally, but we do have to live in the future at some point.
We need all forms of energy, all. It will be a long time before the infrastructure is in place where we might have an inkling of a sustainable energy economy.
Tesla is heading to trial in California today to defend a high-stakes lawsuit claiming that its autopilot system caused a crash that killed its driver. Now, the outcome could have serious implications for similar pending cases and the fate of the driving technology itself. Yahoo Finance's Alexis Keenan has the details for us. Alexis, what are you watching?
Hi, Rochelle. Yeah, so this California state case, it's the first in a string of lawsuits against Tesla that is involving a fatality and its autopilot system. So the big deal here is this is a fatality in this case, and a jury is going to decide this case. It's a wrongful death claim alleging that a Model 3 owner, his name is Micah Lee, that he died and his partner and his son suffered injuries. They say it's because the car's autopilot system caused it to veer off a LA highway and crash. Lee's estate says that he did attempt to regain control of that vehicle, but wasn't able to at the time. Now, the legal argument here, it's a negligence-based claim. They say that the company designed, manufactured, and sold Autopilot, all the while knowing that the product was defective. Tesla, for its part, says the crash was caused by driver error. And they also had a counterclaim against Lee's estate, saying that he had consumed alcohol before the crash. However, the toxicology report that was done here in this instance showed that he was within the legal limits for driving while having consumed alcohol. Now,
this is a very sensitive topic. We have a loss of life. Life is sacred. I have reverence for it. And it's a shame that this family will have to go on without this individual. But you have to be hyper vigilant when using these driver assist features, because that's all they are. Driver assistance features. Autopilot, FSD, these things make mistakes. I understand that every time I get behind the wheel, it could be my last day. And if I've engaged Tesla's Autopilot or FSD, that doesn't absolve the fact that this could be my last day. I am fully aware that the onus is on me. I'm behind the wheel. I'm responsible for how this vehicle behaves. Again, this is sad, but as it stands, the onus is on the driver.
Tesla's Autopilot, let's just talk briefly about some of the features that it offers. There's a variety. Some of them are auto braking, cruising speed controls, also some lane correction features. It's not exactly clear which ones were enabled in this case. That'll come out in the trial. Also, Tesla does say in its documents when an owner buys one of these vehicles that the Autopilot is meant to reduce overall workload on the driver, but it's intended, they say, for a fully attentive driver whose hands are on the wheel, and the driver must be prepared to take over at any time. They go on to say it is not a self-driving system. Now, this case, as I said, it's going to be up to a jury, but it's not the only case. There are other fatality cases involving Autopilot that are coming down the pike. There's another trial in October in Florida that will kick off. That was also involving a crash, also in 2019, like this case that is kicking off today in court was involving. And also that was a Model 3 as well. Though Tesla has had some success so far bringing these cases, or defending these cases, I should say. In April, a California jury said that the company was not liable and attributed a crash to driver error. However, that case wasn't involving a fatality. Guys?
Alexis, you just mentioned a string of legal cases that Tesla now faces around Autopilot. To what extent does this California case set a precedent for the other cases to come?
So I think what's important here is this is a case involving a death. So that's kind of a first time that Tesla is going to be having to defend those high stakes here. Certainly a case involving a death, a jury is going to take very seriously. And so it could be somewhat of a bellwether for these other cases that are coming along. So it's going to be very important to hear what the jury thinks about liability. It can be difficult for a company to be in a position where a jury has decided that the product that they made and the way they put it out into the marketplace was a problematic or defective, or that they knew that there was a problem and didn't do anything about it. That's the kind of thing that Tesla won't want to have happen here, because that then can be a catalyst for other lawsuits, not to mention drive up settlement costs in order to put these trials behind them. So certainly going to be impactful and something to watch as far as Tesla's valuation, because they have staked so much on this Autopilot capability.
Tesla has nothing to worry about. The data will speak for itself. It is unfortunate that there is a loss of life, but as opposed to 45,000 deaths on highways, context is needed. There are over millions of Tesla vehicles on the roads collecting valuable data. Nonetheless, terrible tragedy.
Ross, where do you sit on that strategy right now? Buying dips more in Tesla or buying dips in bonds?
Both. I think, both are great opportunities. It just depends on your risk level. So it is a great time if you're an old investor who is focused on income. We haven't seen income levels, guaranteed rates this high in like 25 years on the 10-year. And, 5% guaranteed by the government with inflation at 3% going lower is a great return for safety, but over the long term, the stock market's averaged 10% a year. So if you accept 5% a year and you're saving for a long-term goal like retirement, you're never going to reach your goal. So it's still not a good enough yield if I'm a young investor to choose a T-bill over Tesla, let's say, where over the long term, Tesla has tremendous growth opportunity. So I think for each investor, it's that balance between stocks and bonds. And that's what we do at Kerber Kawasaki, is really like determine your risk tolerance and build your portfolio around that.
What kind of risk tolerance does one have to have for Tesla right now? I think the chart's fascinating over the last 3 years. We've got the downtrend off the highs, but the uptrend off the lows. By my armchair technical analysis, so Ross, it looks like we've got maybe a month before this thing's got to either break up or down. Which way you think it's going to go? I think I might already know the answer.
Well, I'm not going to tell you which way Tesla stock's going to go. I mean, I wish I knew that for sure. But, we work around valuations, and Tesla's still one of the highest valued stocks in the market based off its forward PE ratio. Tesla has a lot of things going for it, like the Cybertruck launch, and a great article today in the Wall Street Journal about how the mega packs have really stabilized the electrical grid this summer and helped Texas and California avoid blackouts, and all the utilities that are investing in Tesla energy battery systems, which are just revolutionary in our energy system. So I think long-term Tesla is an incredible investment. On the short term, Tesla has these headwinds with higher rates, retooling the factory. So I think if your goal is 1 to 2 months, I don't know about Tesla, but I think if your goal is over the next 3 to 5 years, Tesla is as good of an investment as ever, and it's just a high-valued stock.
Ding, 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 ding. Tell him what he's won, Johnny. Within the next couple of months, who knows what Tesla is going to do. Long term, though, next 3 to 5 years, 10x, 15x. The proof will be in the pudding.
What do you think about the note from Deutsche Bank's analyst about them coming up shy, maybe a couple 100,000 on deliveries for the year?
I mean, I think it's a waste of energy. Tesla's going to deliver 1.8 to 2 million cars. They're the dominant player in the EV space. And now with the Ford, plant on hold and, basically competitors sort of dying by the wayside here, Tesla's going to come out of this interest rate cycle in a stronger position than the other car companies, especially many of the EV competitors, which need capital. So the Fed is inadvertently helping, Tesla a lot in continuing its dominant position in the EV business.
Your mother right. These headwinds impact everyone, but not equally. Tesla is in a far better position to weather any of these storms, and as we come out of the headwinds, there will be tailwinds that only Tesla will take advantage of. If you believe Tesla is suffering, you must feel that every other manufacturer of battery electric vehicles is on life support.
But worrying about a couple 100 cars, 100,000 cars, this is a company that went from selling 100,000 cars a year 5 or 6 years ago to now almost 2 million and on track to, continue to grow at a 40-50% rate. So that's Tesla.
It's a fair point. And as far as Ford and GM go, I can't imagine that their situation doesn't help Tesla to some degree. Right. Any read on the workers at Tesla? I mean, is there any risk that this bleeds over there at all?
No.
No?
Not a chance.
I'm not a big fan of unions for many reasons. If you work at Tesla, you might get paid less in dollars, but you get stock options. And when the company performs and goes up 1,500% in 4 or 5 years, those employees did extremely well at Tesla. It's pay for performance. Now, if you're got the same pay at Ford, the problem is Ford stock hasn't gone anywhere ever.
Damn!
So, Ford union members aren't saying give us stock. They're saying give us cash, and that's the difference between a really exciting growth company and an old industrial company that's on the throes of, sort of the end of its existence, So why wouldn't the union just take stock? Well, they don't want it,
Might as well be toilet paper if you ask me. Long road ahead for Ford, GM, and Stellantis when we talk about the transition to battery electric vehicles. This won't be easy, folks.
Okay. One other thing you did say there, which is that the competition dying by the wayside, and I'm thinking about Elon's comments about how the strikes could drive Ford and GM into bankruptcy. He said something similar about Rivian's cash flow. I know you're not a Rivian hater by any means, but they just put in a display Rivian outlet right across the street from Tesla here in the Gold Coast, Chicago. So it kind of seems like maybe the truck side, perhaps Tesla might be losing the edge a bit.
Well, we haven't had the Cybertruck come out, and that's what I think they're really working really hard on, because people want Rivians here in LA. Rivians are selling very well in LA. Most Tesla owners are upgrading to Rivian trucks, if they want a truck, because they can't get a Cybertruck right now. And so we're seeing Rivian do very well. I do look at them as a competitor to Tesla on the truck side, but I think there's enough room for obviously both companies to be wildly successful. But I'm very bullish on Rivian as a product, as a company, and because Elon's alienated so many Tesla owners, many are looking for other EVs to buy, and Rivian's been the direct beneficiary of Elon's X adventure. So Rivian is spending a lot of money, but we expect their cash flow numbers to improve, or cash flow losses to improve over the next year dramatically as they scale production. So I'm not counting Rivian out. I'm looking at the stock very closely in here. I do think they need to raise capital maybe one more time, but boy, what a great brand and company.
You can purchase whatever you want. Those Tesla owners that switch to Rivian, or any EV manufacturer for that matter, what's the common denominator? They're not going back to internal combustion engine. That will ring true.
Rivian is.
Okay. For Tesla going into the end of the year, Ross, where do you see its connection overall to the economy? Because it seems like that we are getting some optimistic signs, but then we also just went through a period of price cuts, so it seems like Tesla is vulnerable at all. How bad do things have to get for them to start slashing prices again? What does that relationship look like to you?
I mean, if they slash prices again, I'm just going to freak out, because it's like the lack of customer knowledge and understanding of the value proposition of the Model Y today is just amazing. And the fact that Tesla's done very little, they've done some advertising, but very little in aggressively courting new customers is really a huge mistake that Tesla's been making. And it's caused a lot of pain unnecessarily versus investing $20 or $30 million on an education campaign on television to teach people about EVs.
I beg to differ. Tesla plans to produce between 1.8 and 2 million vehicles this year. That's not necessarily a huge number. If Tesla were to be producing 5-6 million vehicles a year, I might say this argument holds some credence. But we're still in the early adopter phase. We're not there yet, folks. Not enough to warrant full-scale media advertisements. Best case scenario, your demand goes through the roof, and you can't dream of supplying those individuals that would want to buy your vehicle. There's just not enough production. Worst case scenario, you spend billions of dollars on advertisement and you miss your target demographic anyway, because in this harsh macroeconomic situation worldwide, many of those individuals cannot yet afford to purchase a Tesla. In my humble opinion, advertising dollars need to be ramped up in lockstep with the ramp of the next generation vehicle. Something more affordable where the total addressable market is blown out. I'm all for advertising, just not right now.
To teach people about EVs. But if you ask any young person who doesn't own an EV why they don't, you will hear ridiculous answers, So we've got to educate the public, because there's still, another 200 million vehicles on the road to replace with EVs just in the United States alone. So the market's massive, but nobody knows about it. And that's the problem. Nobody's on X in real life. That's a very small audience compared to the amount of people watching Monday Night Football.
Hey, some of them still can't afford it, though. To get the model they might want. Still might be an aspirational thing. But all right, I hear you. Thanks, Ross. Appreciate the comment.
Thanks for having me.
So there is some reason for optimism. Using customer data, market research firm Zeta Global predicts, quote, EV sales will continue to spike across America over the next year and over the next 5 years. So let's find out more on what car buyers may be thinking. Joining us now for more on the future of EVs is Zeta Global CEO David Steinberg. And what I love about your data, by the way, it's data at Zeta. There you go, David. You can use that.
Thank you, Brian.
Is that
I like that.
Yeah, it's all free. That's on the house. You don't have to think about what people are thinking. You don't have to guess, because your data backs up what they're actually doing. And what is that?
So, you could call it zero-party data. That's a term for when people actually tell you what they want. And on the Zeta Data Cloud, what we're seeing is people want EV vehicles. They're trying to figure out how to buy them. There are some challenges for the bigger companies, but inside of the Zeta Data Cloud, we're able to see what people are reading, what they're researching, where they're going in the real world, and we're able to synthesize that into intent.
And what are they intending? Like, I talk to a lot of auto dealers, but again, that's just anecdotal type stuff. What can we read from the data that you're looking at?
We're seeing massive research inside of EV vehicles. Now, Tesla continues to be the leader by far, as you just so evidenced.
What? I guess that's really no surprise. They're producing the most battery electric vehicles, the safest car, the highest performance, dollar for dollar.
But we're starting to see some of that spill over in the form of market learning. So people will go to a Tesla dealership and they will learn about it. We're starting to see indication of interest. It's interesting you said the Asian manufacturers will be sending. We're seeing Kia and Hyundai, and interestingly enough, Ford as well, are starting to see research trends that we hadn't seen before. And we really believe that the EV adoption rate is going to continue to go up, and we're going to see EV sales continue to go up over the next 5 years.
Yeah, and that's obviously, we were in Detroit yesterday, David. That's obviously the hope. I mean, it's not the hope. That's what they're betting billions on, and by the way, thousands or tens of thousands of jobs. But the dealers I talk to will often, and it doesn't matter which brand it is, they'll say kind of the same thing. They'll say, we get people come in, they're curious about electric vehicles, they ask a bunch of questions, they probably even drive one, then they just end up buying a gas-powered car. Is your data backing any of that anecdotal stuff up?
Yeah, so what we're seeing is today, the vast majority of EV buyers continue to be people who consider themselves to be technologically advanced. New movers, first movers, people who have the iPhone 15 the day it comes out, not buying last year's version, right? And that's starting to expand. So we've seen a 30% increase in the number of people who are researching buying an EV vehicle who do not consider themselves to be early adopters.
This is crucial because we're beginning to exit that early adopter phase, and the total addressable market is starting to expand. You're gonna start seeing Americans trade in those key fobs for phone key access. Tesla owners, you know what I mean.
For the first time, too, we're starting to see rural people starting to research EV vehicles. Now, they start with research. They might buy a gas-powered vehicle this time, but we believe that over the next 5 years, you're going to see those people move from researching to buying.
Your mother right. Whenever you decide to make the transition to battery electric vehicles, will be on your own terms. A myriad of mitigating factors may be involved in your decision. But make no mistake, folks, there is an opportunity to be had. We're in the early innings of this massive shift in automobile transit. Will you seize the day? In conclusion, Trump talks at a non-union factory, talking about how he will not let the automobile industry die on his watch. He might not have a choice. Tesla is in court due to an unfortunate fatality involving Autopilot. My thoughts are always with any of the surviving family when facing an untimely death. Truly painful and tragic. According to Ross Gerber, Tesla's competitors are in their final throes of agony, as many of them will be dying by the wayside. Data shows EV adoption may spike a little harder than many people think, especially when it comes to the rural parts of the country. Ignore the data at your own peril. Well, that's all I got for you today. Be easy. Peace.